Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. We're hanging out here with my pea puffers, and today I want to tell you about the top 5 plants that I have found easiest to grow and I'd recommend to beginners. So when I started fish keeping, one of the biggest things that I wanted to do was grow live plants in my aquarium. Fish keeping for me came about because I wanted an aquarium so that I could use the water to water all my houseplants. So that's the biggest reason to why I had an aquarium to begin with. And I just sort of got hooked on it and ended up with multiple aquariums, which I think is the story for a lot of people, not just myself. I've grown quite a few plants now in these aquariums and I really do enjoy them. I love the way a planted aquarium looks, and I do notice that the fish really enjoy it too. So the first plant that I want to talk about on this list is Hydrophilia polysperma, and you can actually see it in this aquarium here. It's lining the back wall. This plant grows like a weed. Definitely one of the first plants that I started with and had great success. It is quite a beautiful plant. It has sort of wider leaves than other Hydrophilia, and they do also go into like a red tinge at the top once it gets close to the light. It's a stem plant, which means it's easy to propagate. All you'll need to do is chop it and pop it back into the gravel or substrate that you're using in your aquarium, and it will grow roots. I found that this plant grows really well on a medium light. I'm actually using floodlights, 20 watt floodlights that you can actually see up there, that pretty much lights all of my aquariums. I do light my aquariums in the house with aquarium lights, but to be perfectly honest, I haven't noticed a great deal of difference in the way that this particular plant grows. You won't need an expensive light to grow it, just something that will give it a decent light, and it'll grow very easily for you. I definitely recommend this one if you're looking for something to bush out an aquarium that grows quickly. So the next one on this list is Anubias, which is definitely a personal favorite. Actually, currently I have it in just about all my tanks because I have had some pieces that I have purchased recently and I'm floating them. So, but you can see it in the pea puffers tank as well, which is why I chose this tank, because most of these are in here. I've got Anubias nana in this tank, and I've just attached it to the wood and some rocks in the back there. When I first started fish keeping and I was planning out tanks, I was gluing them to rocks and I was gluing them with just super glue to driftwood and things. I actually don't think that I would do that now. Nowadays, I would tie them with either cotton, or sometimes I even use little elastic bands, like little hair ties that are like plastic, just because I found that little tiny piece of glue, even though it's like so small, does cause a little damage to the plant's rhizome where it is. So that's the only reason that I've stopped doing it. But look, loads of people still super glue this to their hardscape, so it's not wrong, it's just, I just personally don't like it. Now there are different types of Anubias. The Anubias nana is one of the smaller leaf versions, but of course you can get larger leaf versions of Anubias, including variegated versions of it, which are absolutely stunning. Anubias is a slow grower. This one will take a long time to get big and bushy, but it is definitely a beautiful plant, and once it does start bushing out, it is really rewarding. I've found with a lot of my Anubias, I need to get in there and actually clean the leaves because they can get a little algae growth on them because they are such a slow grower. It is important to note with this one that we do not plant it in the substrate, because that rhizome that it grows from will rot. So it is really important that this plant is either attached to rocks or driftwood or anything else that is in the tank that is above the gravel. It gets most of its nutrients from the water column. So when you're putting your liquid fertilizers and things in there, definitely benefits from that. One of my favorite things about this plant is it is a low light plant. So it doesn't need a lot, which is awesome. So I've actually got this one in my axolotl aquarium because he is a low light creature. So he only gets about 4 hours of light a day, purely for me, so that I get to see him occasionally. To propagate Anubias, all you'll need to do is basically have a look at that rhizome and chop at sections in the rhizome. Propagation will be a separating of the plant. Next one on my list is Thin Vallisneria. This is definitely one of my favorite looking plants. It grows very long and tends to go over the top of the aquarium on the top of the water. A lot of people will chop it at the top of the water so that it doesn't cover the top, but doing that will actually stop it from photosynthesizing slightly because it does get a lot of its light that way. And you do see that it will do that in nature. I love a bit of thin val. Like, you put the thin val at the back of an aquarium, instant background, beautiful. The fish love it, they hide in it, they swim in it. This plant sends out runners that'll then grow little pups, off the main plant, and it is prolific. You can grow heaps and heaps of them. Something that I did want to mention with thin val though is that it takes a little bit to settle within the aquarium. She gets a little upset when you move it from one place to another, and you will find that you'll get a lot of melt, and then you'll find that it will grow back again. Takes about a month. I have had cases where it's taken a lot longer, but I think that might have been a lack of nutrients, so it is important to give that val quite a bit of nutrients. I like to put a bit of a root tab underneath them, and that tends to help quite a bit. With thin vallisneria, I do like to add a little bit of fertilizer to the tank occasionally. I currently am dosing these tanks at half the recommended dosage, once a week to once every 2 weeks. So the next one is Java fern. It is in this aquarium as well. I've got it stuck onto the driftwood here. Java fern is in every single one of my aquariums because I have so much of it. An excellent beginner plant. Highly recommend. I feel like it should be everyone's beginner plant. Definitely get your hands on some Java fern. It comes in heaps of different varieties too. You can get trident leaf Java fern, needle leaf Java fern. It grows babies off the leaves. Yeah, if you do lose a leaf on your Java fern, so say something happens, you're cleaning your tank, you're doing something and your leaf comes off, you're like, oh no, I'll just chuck it out, damn. Just leave it in the tank. Just let it float at the top. You have a new Java fern instantly. Not instantly, it takes a little bit of time, but it'll grow one, don't worry. They are a medium grower, so I find that they don't grow as slow as Anubias, but they aren't as fast as, say, Hydrophilia polysperma. So they are, I would say, a medium grower. Once I find that they do get a little bit larger, they do tend to take off a bit. So these guys are still quite small, but they are getting there, and they haven't been in here very long. So I did put them in as like tiny little babies because I had them. So I was like, I'll just stick them in and they'll be fine. And they've grown quite a bit. They can grow in a low light setting. With all plants, they will grow better with more light. So I like to give these plants a decent amount of light to get that growth going. Much like the Anubias, these guys need to be attached to driftwood or rocks. If you plant them within the substrate, the rhizome will definitely rot and it will kill the plant. So these have like roots that they sort of look like pieces of like cotton string that will attach themselves around driftwood, and they will attach themselves on rocks and things like that to stay there, obviously with time. So again, I have in the past super glued these guys onto hardscape. Much like the Anubias, again, these guys do prefer a little bit of fertilizer in the water. I don't always do that to all my tanks, and I have found that the fish waste is sufficient for this plant. This plant is really a set and forget. You don't need to do anything to it. You don't need to add fertilizers. You don't need to worry your brain about it. Just put it in there with some fish and you'll have a beautiful plant. So last but not least, I've done a video on it before, is moss. Moss is the best plant. It's in everything because I breed a lot of fish. It is literally in every single aquarium, every single fry tray, everywhere. It's not in this aquarium because these guys are growing out, so we don't need moss in here. Also, look at all of these beautiful plants that I have provided for them. They don't need moss. Everywhere else, there is moss. I recently got hold of some Christmas moss, which I'm really excited about. Because I've only ever had Java moss, which I've been growing quite happily. If you're interested in growing really lovely Java moss, do check out my video on that. I will link it in the description below. Christmas moss, I've had a great time with too. I haven't done anything to it. I stuck it in a fry tank and it's growing fine. And then I took some pieces of it and I stuck them in a guppy tank and it's also growing fine. And I haven't done anything. I think maybe the guppy tank, I have added some fertilizer to the guppy tank. So the fertilizer that I use, super simple. Most of the time, I'll just go in there with some API leaf zone. Super easy, super simple. I've got a little dropper that I just pop, basically, like I said, half a dose of what this tank will require in there every week, 2 weeks or so. And then I also add some liquid carbon fertilizer. This is just CO2. It's just CO2 in a bottle. You don't have to do this bit. I've just started, so I can't tell you exactly how I feel. I don't know yet. So I've just started with this one. It's still full, you can see. I'm just giving it a go and we'll see what happens. If I come back with a video on how to remove algae from your tank, you know that this didn't go well. This should eliminate algae. So We'll see what happens. All right, now I know this is a top 5, but I love giving a bonus plant. So bonus plant is the cryptocorum. Now the one that I would recommend for most beginners is the cryptocorum wentii. It's beautiful. It's a stunning little plant. It is perfect for like foreground planting. So like if you want stuff closer to the front of the glass. The wentios don't like a lot of light. These are a low light plant, so you want to pop them sort of in the cracks and crevices of your hardscape, under your driftwood and between rocks. They are perfect to fill in those little gaps and are quite a stunning little plant. Something that I do want to mention with the cryptocorum is that once you plant it, they will have a hissy fit and melt back completely. And you'll be like, I killed it. Oh no. Don't pull it out. Let it go for a little bit longer and you will find that it will grow back. They tend to do this all the time. Even when I move a crypt from one aquarium to another aquarium, I find that they do that. So let them go, let them do their thing, let them have their little drama tantrum, and then they'll come back bigger and beautiful than ever. They are a slow grower, so you might find that they take a little bit longer to get to that big bushy sort of finished plant, but they do and can get quite large. This plant is to be planted within the substrate. It is a root feeder. It will benefit from root tabs. Of course, I think all plants benefit from liquid fertilizer. When I plant or replant them, I will pop a root tab within the substrate and then pop them on top of it. I have found that that has given them a bit of a boost to really shorten that tantrum period. There's a lot of different kinds of crypts. The wentii comes in a green version, it comes in a red version. They are really quite a unique little plant and they can get quite large as well. So you will get quite a decent plant out of a tiny itty bitty one. They grow pups. That's how you would propagate. So once you get them big enough, they will start shooting off little babies that you can separate and plant elsewhere. They're a great little plant, so I definitely recommend them. Hope you guys liked my personal top 5 easiest plants for beginners. This is just my opinion on things and what I've experienced, and that is what I wanted to relay to you guys, and I hope maybe you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe, leave me a comment because I do want to know what you're doing and what you're thinking, so definitely tell me about it, and I'll catch you on the next one.